And we're back again. It's your friendly neighborhood film watchers, Frankly Football. We're back in the building. And if you notice, we got a special guest with us today. My main man, Nick. If you will please, Nick, introduce yourself, man.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Nick Herrera. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_Herrera34. Just big time Cowboys fan. Love talking with all you guys. Just ready to have a good show.
Man, I would say more than big time Cowboys fan, Nick. Your takes are one of the few that are thought-provoking enough for, even if they're a little bit out there, I still respect them because I know that it's coming from an informed place.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So as we saw this past Sunday in a game that I wish would have turned out a little differently against the San Francisco 49ers, we saw a different running back situation.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the previously thought of Iron Man in Ezekiel Elliott, he missed the game. This is, I believe, the first game he missed due to injury. And
Absolutely.
Tony Pollard got a chance to see a bulk of action.
Mm-hmm.
What do y'all think about Tony Pollard?
So you said if you want to win, put Tony in, huh? That's what you're trying to say? Huh? You trying to spin to let Tony in?
I'm saying if we want to win, which we shouldn't, then we need to do what is best for the team.
Okay. What you think about that, Nick?
I don't necessarily disagree. I am not really overly shocked about what we saw from Tony. So we saw the typical, hey, when it's an obvious running situation, he's going to get you 1 or 2 yards when Zeke would probably do 3 or 4. But then you'll have that explosive play where he breaks a catch out in the flats for 30 yards, or he'll break that 40-yard run. They have 2 different skill sets, and I think there's room for both of those players on this team. I don't think it has to be a Zeke or Tony thing. I think they do need to be a little bit more creative with how they use both of them. I don't think it necessarily needs to be an 80% Zeke on the field and 20% Pollard. It could be closer to 50-50. What makes it tougher is what you're paying these guys. You want to have your high price running back on the field as much as possible, and he can do everything, but he's not the best at everything. So if you look at the situation like they had in New Orleans a couple of years ago with Ingram and Kamara, one of them was getting paid more. The quote unquote worst running back in Ingram was getting paid more. And Kamara wasn't playing as much, but they played him strategically, and they were able to maximize the talent for both those guys. So again, not shocked that we saw an awesome game against a very poor defense on Sunday, but that doesn't mean hand the keys over to Tony Pollard and sorry, Zeke, you're shit out of luck. Sorry. But.
I'm really glad that you said that last sentence, because I think that it comes down to this. How much value do you place on a guy getting paid to them requiring a certain amount of work?
The good teams don't do that, though. The good teams play the best players when they should be playing and strategically pepper in other players. If you look at, and I was telling Chris here earlier that I'm in Kansas City, so I get to see a lot of the Chiefs. Sammy Watkins is a very high-paid wide receiver. He's not necessarily on the field all the time. And at one point, he was the highest-paid wide receiver for the Chiefs before Tyreek Hill got his contract. But they're a good team, and they know how to use both those players. Granted, Sammy Watkins was hurt a lot, but still, they weren't forcing the ball to him just because he was making at $1.16 million, still making $9 million on a pay cut. They get it to him when he's open.
But that goes back to what I think everyone has seen before. And I think what we fail to realize is that last year we saw Tony and Zeke do the same thing. We saw them do the same thing against the Dolphins when I think Zeke went for 120 and I think Tony went for like maybe $130, $140 that time. We also seen it when they did that against the Rams. Zeke went for $125, $130. Tony went for 100 and a long touchdown. And that's what you want to be able to do. But the reason why you weren't able to do it this year was on a couple of different factors. One, the turnovers and playing from behind and having to throw the ball so much. The offensive line being what the offensive line has been this year. and then just having that ability to salt the game away. I think Kellen is progressing in his play calling because he's still a second-year play caller.
Yeah.
I think he gets an opportunity next year with a Rain Dakota Prescott, with a capable, functional offensive line, and then to be able to understand I have to win time of possession. Above scoring 40 points or 35, 40 points, I have to win time of possession so I can keep my defense off the field to protect them. And
Okay,
go ahead.
So from a team philosophy standpoint, moving forward, of course, we want Dak Prescott back. Well, Nick, I can't speak for you.
No, we all do. We can say
there we go.
Okay.
We want Dak Prescott back. We want a fully functioning offense at that point. So from a team philosophy standpoint, obviously Zeke is good for the team, but is Zeke good for the team philosophy? Based on how someone like Jerry Jones feels about a player's play versus usage. Is Zeke good for you from that standpoint?
Zeke's great for me any way you put it out there, because let's be honest, what can we not do right now as a defense? What's the one thing? My bad, I'm just sliding down. What's the one thing we can't do this right now as a defense? We can't stop the run. And
right.
Everybody walks into each game saying, we stop the run, we make you one-dimensional. You know what I'm saying? Andy Dalton or anybody else is a better quarterback when he can play action when you get the linebackers to hesitate. So Zeke is still a viable option. Let's not get it twisted. You educated me earlier. Everybody said last year was Zeke's down year. He had 1,300 yards and double-digit touchdowns last year. Let's be honest. Most people would die to have a down year running back with that many yards and that much production.
Absolutely.
And so Tony was brought in because in 2018 we looked at Zeke like he's getting killed. He was hopping off the field. We were like, man, we're gonna run this guy into the ground, but we got to keep him because he stirs. He's the motor that runs the offense. Now we understand he's not the motor that run it, but he's a damn good complementary piece of this thing to make it go and do what it does.
So,
and if I might add something, like I haven't seen anything that would make Zeke seem like a bad teammate. Like I don't think he needs to have 30 touches in a game to be happy.
Right.
He's similar into the Dez kind of philosophy of if we're winning, yes, that's all I care about. Let's win.
Right.
If it's 20 carries, if it's 12 carries, we just want to win. Part of the reasons why I think he's struggled also this year, even though he has only had, 12, 15 carries in some games, he's trying too hard to win. And so he's pressing, he's not hitting the holes correctly, and he's fumbling. So I think his thing is he wants to win. I think him and Dak Prescott being best friends, Zeke being willing to block like he is in the pass game shows me that he's a little bit unselfish.
Okay. Do you guys think that the whole hero ball mentality, because Zeke is not the only guy that has that mentality on the team, do you think that is a holdover trait from the last coaching regime, or do you think that that's just Zeke and other players that I won't name? That's just a personality trait of it.
You know who you want to name, but we're not gonna name that guy right now because we ain't talking about defense. I think what Nick said was absolutely on point. Zeke is trying to say, if Four's not out here, I'm the next best player with the ball in my hand the majority of the time. Let me do as much as I can. We can go back and look on film. The fumble against Arizona was the fact that Dalton was getting ready to get sacked. Zeke had fallen down, got back up, and was looking to try to go make a play. Buda Baker made a better play. He's running hard, with the ball security. He fumbled. And like I said, the turnovers are on him, but the effort isn't. And my problem has been since 2018, since 2017, Zeke is playing with a guy in his face in the backfield on a regular basis. And so because he's getting hit a yard behind, he's got to try to make a move to get out of the way to get to that next step. What Tony was able to do yesterday on that 40-yard run, he didn't make four guys miss. Four guys just whipped on that tackle. That was going to be a 2-3 yard gain. Three guys try to grab him up high. He slipped underneath, and then he's got the motor to get away. But we always knew he had that. Yep. That's what we want. That's what we wanted our secondary backup, change of pace back to be. And that's what Tony is. He's right on pace for what you called for early in the year, Brandon. 15 to 18 touches a game. 15 to 18 touches a game in the pass game, in the run game. I mean, you put both of them out there, and then you motion Tony out the backfield. Now what do you got to do? You got one less linebacker in the box. Now you got a different situation.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you mentioned that. I think that Tony, and this is no new take here. I've said this plenty of times on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at Frankly Football. The last is a one, by the way. That Tony Pollard is the modern day example of Felix Jones. Felix Jones, in his time as a Cowboy, really thrived when he was given somewhere between 15 to 18 total touches in a game. There was one season where he was commanded to give more than that, and the return on value plummeted as a result. I think that if you put Tony in a situation where he has to get 25 plus total touches in the game, you'll see a diminishing return, and that's not what I want. I want him to be operating optimally.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I feel like you need a running back, even if guys want to foolishly jump ship on Zeke. You need another guy who can handle. I would say it should be a 60-40 split where Tony gets the lesser portion. Handle more workload. That's what he needs in order to succeed. As you saw, Rico Dowdle came in and got quite a few touches himself with the Zeke out. And it's not that Tony's previous coaches, because he never had, whether it was at Memphis or at Dallas, he never had a ton of carries, a ton of catches in a season. I think combined, the most that he had in his last year in Memphis was like 78 total touches.
Yeah. He was like the second or third running back on that team. He played more wide receiver, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, right. His freshman year, he played wide receiver.
Right. So I go ahead, Big.
So I don't want to chance it and say, okay, let's just give him a huge workload. If he can't handle it, we revert back. Because at that point, you run the risk of ruining the guy, and you don't want that.
Right. I think you're on point with that. I mean, both of y'all have made great points about it. I think it was a great outing. It was a good deal for him to come and play and get what he did, play the way he did. We expected as much. Seeing Rico Dowdle out there, that gives us another option. We ain't got to go find another guy. But more importantly, man, it's the mindset that all of them respect each other in that running back room. I was ready to get rid of Skip Pete. I'm not a Skip Pete fan.
At all, no.
I'm not a Skip Pete fan at all. I think Skip Pete brings fumbling with it, because till this day, I still blame him for DeMarco Murray fumbling in that 2014 game, because that don't make no kind of sense for a guy to fumble that much. But he was crazy productive. But I think you got 2 more games. I don't risk Zeke getting hurt any more than he has to be. If you want to play him, by 4 o'clock, you'll know whether or not you need to get Zeke ready to go against the Giants. You'll know.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Are you guys sold on Zeke?
Say that again?
Are you guys sold on Zeke? Are you team kick Zeke off the boat?
No, I mean, financially it doesn't make sense right now. So, I mean, whether you're on the Zeke train or not, he's gonna be on this team next year. And he's still a really good player. You can question his financial value and if they should have paid a running back and if they should have maybe used that money elsewhere. I get that argument. I'll actually field that argument. I still think he's one of the better players on this team. But yeah, no, I'm still on the train for sure.
Man, listen, I'm never getting off the Ezekiel Elliott train. I know what it was to look up and have Joseph Randles with some Drakkar cologne and some draws in his hands, and he's my RB1. I know what it feels like to deal with Troy Hambrick and think that that's a number one running back. What Zeke brings with power, vision, and now more importantly, maturity. When he came into the league, he was immature, without question. He needed to be set down. He became the poster boy for domestic violence for the league. So be it. But at the end of the day, for the last 4 years on this football team, dude, he has been, and I still think to this day, he's still a top 5 running back in this league. All this stuff about Derrick Henry and whatnot, it took Derrick Henry 3 years to get to the point where Zeke was already playing from day one. Derrick Henry is an absolute monster, but it's always hindsight is 2020. Oh, had we taken Derrick Henry, had we taken Jalen Ramsey and Derrick Henry? Listen, Jalen Ramsey's on his second team now. He's on his second team. You don't think he'd have been a malcontent and wanted to get out of Dallas when he was playing the way he did in Jacksonville? Then you really have been sick, right? So if you'd have got Jalen Ramsey and you got Derrick Henry, and it took Derrick Henry 3 years to get up to speed, get up to production, not being great out catching the ball out the backfield, not having a lot of wiggle. Let's be honest. Derrick Henry ain't got a lot of wiggle. He's 5 yards downhill and a great stiff arm. And I'm glad what they're doing. But I still don't think you would have seen the progression of brain going the way he had you had Derrick Henry outside of Zeke. I don't know what y'all think about that.
That it's an interesting one. I mean, because Derrick Henry is also 5 yards tall, so there's also kind of like a certain amount of power that comes into the size.
Okay. I've seen him in real life, and he's a real life monster.
He's a giant. It's
No,
ridiculous.
I'd be real curious to see how Derrick Henry would run behind this O-line this year. Mainly because he's a big guy. He takes a minute to get up to speed. He's not a guy that's explosive. Once he gets downhill, though, good luck. I mean, around this O-line, we haven't had any huge hole on a consistent basis.
Right.
I don't think he'd have the season he was having now if he was on.
When I see Derrick Henry run, I think of Eddie George in year 7. He looks like Eddie George in year 7. Yeah. Because when Eddie first came out, he had a little bit more wiggle. But as those hits started accumulating on his body, Eddie wasn't doing as much wiggling. He was just trying to get downhill and get them big shoulders on him. That's, Tennessee's got a really good scheme. They got a good young offensive line. And that's what, basically everybody needs. But when you run a turnstile steel out there and, Joe Looney, you're going to have these kind of problems.
Yeah.
To be expected. I mean, we will hopefully see some improvement as the offseason comes in. Hint, we're going to have some fire draft content coming up. But
yes, sir.
As this line gets repaired, it's going to have to be surgically at some point. But as this line gets repaired, I think that you're going to see a progression at the running back position. It's only natural. They're required to the O-line anyway is required for the running back to succeed in most cases.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. But I think that's all we got, man. We ain't try to take up too much of your time with running back talk. Tony great, but we need Zeke to be great as well. I don't think anybody ready to kick him off the boat just yet.
Gotcha.
So if you haven't, follow Nick on his Twitter. Nick, will you please plug yourself again?
Yep, Nick_Herrera34 on Twitter.
That's right. Follow him on Twitter there. Follow us on Twitter at Frankly Football. That's FranklyFootball1. And on YouTube at Frankly Football. I'm Brandon. Of course, our humble guest Nick was with us, and I got my main man with me.
Hey, man, hit the subscribe, hit the like, man. Leave us a comment because we love interacting with you guys. Appreciate y'all, man.
Peace.